We're doing lives.
Hi.
We're getting better and better at it. And we finally realized one of the things that would help if we had a topic to get started with.
Okay. What are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about how everything that you want begins with you and ends with you, really.
And how shortcuts don't work.
No. And they may produce results, but do they last?
No.
So our entire philosophy is whatever you want, you have to be the person that can actually receive it.
I think my favorite example of this is when a friend asked me, I was single at the time, and he asked me, well, what are you looking for? And so I gave my list of here's all the things that I want. And he said, are you the kind of person that person wants to be with? And that was like a really great aha moment, because I was very close to that. And that was really cool because I had been doing a lot of personal work. And I said, almost. And that was an honest answer for me. That was real. And I said, wow, yeah, almost. I'm real close, and yeah, now I know what I need to do. So it was really helpful.
I didn't make a list because I felt like I was the least qualified in my life to know what I really wanted. Because if I understood it well enough, there would be some evidence that I was right in my life. I think what was really large for me was how I wanted to feel.
Yeah.
How I wanted to feel in a relationship was respected, at peace, loved, reciprocation. Well, everything that we have. Everything that we have.
Oh.
So that's why we have it.
Well, yeah, because we chose it.
I became the kind of a person that would feel like I wanted to feel in my relationship. I was no longer the person that had excuses and stories, not at least to the level that I did. I always have stories. I have a story right now.
We don't deny being human, that's for sure.
So ultimately, if you are looking for techniques, like what's this end game around whatever, you're desperately looking at all the different things about the law of attraction. You're trying all the manifestations. You're doing all of the classic stuff all of us have done, the affirmations, listening to the meditations. The ultimate question I have to keep asking myself, because I can only deal with me, I can only change the world and my perceptions of it, is what am I doing about it? What do I really believe? Am I the kind of a person that any of this stuff makes any difference to?
Well, I think it's there's so many clickbaity things that promise you big things to get you to click on them. And it's helpful because a lot of times we need that much of a jump, like find the love of your life in 2 days.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
unless you're willing to really do some serious work and look in the mirror in 2 days.
Well, by some freak accident, it could happen if you're already ready for that. But I think for me, it's kind of a bait and switch thing in a way that's not necessarily wrong, because if you're looking for it, it just tells you what's really true. And that is, you can't have that in 2 days. Hi, thanks for clicking on this thing, but you can't have it in 2 days. And here's why, and here's how you can have it in maybe 2 months or 2 years or whenever. But it really depends on when you are becoming the person that will attract the person you actually want. And
so the classic example is the lotto. People who win the lotto, they weren't meant to be wealthy. They weren't meant to be millionaires. Yeah. Maybe there was some little piece in the matrix that understood that. So that's why the ticket came your way or their way. But how many of them remain that way?
I think it's a pattern. And so if your pattern is to want to win the lottery, then you're likely to want to win the lottery a lot more than you actually do win the lottery. And even that is a pattern of lack of wanting. And if you do win the lottery, you don't have the machine in place to manage that kind of a shift.
Well, your whole nervous system doesn't know how to be a millionaire.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's like a tidal wave landing in your life of all of this water all of a sudden, but it's like, shit, it's destroying my world. Like, I don't know what to do with it. And everything's flooded now. And it's a mess.
That's a great analogy, because if you spend your life in the shallow end of a pool and you call that swimming, when you get finally thrown in the deep end and you sink, you're like, well, this isn't fair. I mean,
yeah, it is what it is.
Well,
it's a nervous system thing and an acclimation. And I think as human beings, we need to remember that we can only handle so much at a time because we are dense creatures, and we have a, a threshold of how much we can integrate into our day, into our world at a time.
So where it begins as a great example in the way that we teach what we do is acknowledge something got you to where you are today. You are the kind of person you are today because of the life you led literally every second, minute, and hour, and year before that. There's things about your life as a child that put imprints in you. And so our goal is to help you go, okay, maybe it's not my fault for becoming the person I was. I'm following patterns and stories and things like that. Not saying you're innocent of any behavior of your life. I'm just saying when you're a child, you didn't have any say in what the adults did to teach you things or not teach you. Ultimately, you learn something, and that's a big part of your life, how you're playing it out. And then the next part is, what are you going to do about it from this day forward? Because from this day forward, it's all on you. If you want a better relationship, if you want more success, if you want to sell things even better, if you want anything more in your life than you currently have, it has to begin with you. It's just, that's as simple as it gets.
It's also just the basic self-awareness that we don't have self-awareness until we do. And our normal is because of all that influence. So whatever our normal is generally comes from all of the things that have happened to us to a point that we haven't been able to see is forming us into who we are. So our normal is sometimes really wacko, but that's all we know until we start questioning that. And for me, my biggest shift came with inquiry when I started asking that question, what else is there? Is this who I am? Is this what I want? I never really thought that there may be a different way or a new way or something else I could be doing when this is what I am doing.
Some of the big shifts for me were when I was first introduced to the concept that we attract everything in our life to us. And they were kind enough to say, like, if you're in an abusive place or in an absolutely thriving, wonderful, beautiful place, I'm not saying anyone deserves to be hurt or be in pain, but you can't live in a world that you don't believe in. And so if your outer world reflects your inner world, then what does that say about who you are? What do you believe? What do you think? How are you describing things? Because I believed all of that when I was told that. I think we're both in the same boat. Like, our brain went, well, that makes sense. But the place that I was in my life was already pretty painful and frustrating. You know, I was married before in the past, and I'm thinking, whenever you're learning something, what environment are you in? Is it going to allow you to really integrate it? Because I realized that radical self-ownership was the path, but man, I wasn't at a good place to put those shoes on and start walking.
Well, nobody is. And I think that's the biggest thing is you think about that shallow end of the pool. If you go to the water park and there's one of those beach style, what do they call those? Infinity, or I don't know. No, that's the one with the edge that goes over. It doesn't look like I have an edge. What is that called? The one with like the beach where it's shallow and then goes deeper. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. When you step into that shallow water, you have to get used to that level first. So radical self-ownership is not the shallow edge. It's the deep end. But you can't, if you just jump in there. Okay, I shouldn't say you can't. You can. And we do.
Yep.
But that is the big transformation, rude awakening, dark night of the soul, like all that's kind of like jumping into the deep end of that radical self-awareness. And it's a lot easier on your nervous system if you start at the shallow edge and come in and ask questions and get your foundational knowledge and go a little deeper and a little deeper, and your nervous system will do better. But if you're kind of hardcore and you like, destroying yourself and setting everything on fire, jumping into the deep end is also very fun, if you like that. But it is a different integration. It takes longer to recover from, and your nervous system will come out in a different level, but it's not for everybody. So we do recommend smaller steps, integrate that, take another step, integrate that. But if you feel that urge to just really do something huge and make a big shift, then, that is a way. That's possible. I've done it. You've done it.
Here's the thing. Everything in life is really simple. Generally, everything follows the same kinds of patterns at its fundamental root. If you want to be good at something over there that you're not currently good at now, don't get stuck in, well, I should imagine that I am right now, and then therefore it'll happen. Like, that can get very confusing. Do something that's called a process. Like, pick some place to start, simple, move towards that place where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be stronger in the gym, you're not going to go and start trying to bench 300 pounds.
Right.
You're going to get your form right. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to learn how to manage the weights. You're going to get yourself to a point where it may take some time, but you'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Your body's capable of a lot more when you exercise it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have an amazing relationship, no dating technique is going to get you that. It may get a relationship started. It may get you some phone calls, some dates, some chats, some ghosting, whatever the case is, some one-night stands.
Some experience.
You may tap that, but like, what are you going to get in the end? Are you going to have the relationship, or did you just have another version of the same patterns in your life? What are you doing to create the kind of person that can have the things that you want? Because that's the whole thing.
We should talk about the Attraction Academy for Men that we just opened. So while we're here, what's become obvious to us over the last year and a half, we've been creating a lot of content and paying attention to who's responding to it. And our audience, the biggest audience, and this is, again, when you look at the analytics and you look at who has been directly approaching us in person,
Mm-hmm.
friends in our social networks, friends of friends, whatever. It's been single men, or it's been men in relationships too, or new relationships, but mostly single men who are really trying to understand why they can't seem to get that relationship they want. And they started coming to us and asking us for help. And what was great is that I think all of them have said, what do I need to do to become better? What do I need to do to be the person that will attract the right partner? And that's the question we like to answer. That's the area that's self-aware and self-actualized, to realize that, who am I now, and who do I need to become? Or what do I need to unbecome? What crap am I carrying around? What stories and masks am I wearing?
That's so unbecoming.
That are blocking my attraction to the right people or partner. So what?
Just thinking a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So it became obvious to us that was the focus we should focus on. The focus we should focus on. So our community is the Attraction Academy for Men.
Yep. On School.
It's on School.
We would love to have you there.
We started this community after we built our course, Dominate the Dating Apps, which is also, honestly, I think that's kind of a bait and switch in a way, because it is that if you want to dominate the dating apps, you have to become the person who will become attractive and magnetic and attract the right people. So when you step into the dating apps, the right fish swim up to you immediately, and the rest don't even bother, because you're exuding a presence and a power that's really,
when you're really embodied,
real.
You're the real you. When you've got enough of the stuff managed and out of the way and healed, nobody's going to reach a plateau of perfection, because then that's called death. So we don't want you to date while you're dead. That just doesn't work. There's movies about it and maybe some sci-fi stories, but what we're trying to say is,
He's getting off track.
I think they get it.
I think you can.
We're trying to say is,
at the place in your journey where you are,
yes, you're going to attract.
You will attract a
who
match.
You are. Wherever you're at, just think of yourself as a broadcasting station. You've got a frequency you're sending out, and the only people around the world are going to tune into that one very specific frequency are going to be able to hear you, and that's it. If you are, an AM talk radio guy, and you're just being boring and arguing and talking about drama, guess who's going to tune in? But if you're a high definition, high quality stereo FM,
you're playing some kick-ass music.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're DJing your whole life, like freestyle in an amazing way, because you've got that confidence and spontaneity.
Yeah, you become magnetic, and that's what we're teaching. Is attraction means you become magnetic and you pull in the things that match you in the right way, and it goes dink.
Yes.
It fits and it's great. So the Attraction Academy is the community. Dominate the Dating Apps is the course. You get the course free when you join the community. So we think that's a really cool thing. And
yes, we've put a lot of heart and soul into creating this because we want you to have everything that you deserve. We genuinely believe that. I know that's what you're supposed to say as a coach, like, get what you deserve. We want the world to be happy. Like, for God's sakes, we both look at the state of relationships in this world. It's not getting better. It feels like it's getting worse. It's getting more polarized.
I think it's getting weirder. And there's an opportunity to redefine and what's the word I'm looking for? Like put it back on track, but put it on the right track. Because I think a lot of the problem with relationships up until now is that we've been told what to do, how to do it, and who to do it with to such a degree that we don't ever consider who am I and what do I want, in relationships. So there's an opportunity now to redefine that and create the relationship that makes sense for you, that works, and attract the person that works and that is the same kind of strange and weird that you are, or a compliment. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, and our biggest message throughout the whole thing is to find out who you are without outside opinion, and find out who you want and what you want in your life without outside opinion.
Yeah.
And then figure out how to do it, how to get it. So our course is a walkthrough method of all of that. And the community is a space for you to be seen and work with other people and be witnessed as you go through it.
Yeah, our process works for men and women, but right now, like she said, we're focusing on men, single men. And when you see Dominate the Dating Apps and you have a picture in your head of what that means, if the first question is, do you even know who you are? Then hopefully you catch on, oh, this isn't just a bunch of techniques. Let me explain why techniques don't work. Because when the rubber hits the road, if you don't have a foundation, if you haven't dealt with your shit, then when the rubber hits the road, what are you supposed to do about it? Because it's one thing, like if I had, how to dress nice and I put on cologne or something that, I thought was going to attract people. Say I meet you and I haven't really dealt with myself.
That's funny for many reasons.
Yeah. What are you going to do when in your relationship that used all these techniques to get started, you run into a trigger that both of you have over something? What are you going to do when it's a really difficult conversation about intimacy or money, or how are we going to do this sex life thing, or how are we going to handle our family? How are we going to handle any of that? If you haven't been working on yourself, I can guarantee you no amount of techniques are going to help you in that moment. Those are the moments that define a relationship's stability and viability.
And we're dealing with real life. So when you're single and you're looking to date, you have your own experiences, and anyone you date will have their own experiences. So you have to figure out how those fit together. And that's the biggest part of it is acknowledging what's true for you and what you really want and what would be okay and what wouldn't be okay. And getting really clear on your own boundaries and your own yes and no and what fits for you and what is a hell yes and what is a God no thank you. And I think the biggest challenge in dating is that there's this expectation when you meet someone that you're supposed to try and make pieces fit together, even if they don't. And to me, dating is meeting someone to see if you want to spend more time with them. So dating, like the first time you're on a date, if everything's like you keep talking and you want to know more and you keep asking questions and it's good because there's a back and forth and both people are engaged in the conversation.
Yes.
Then there's a tendency to want to continue, like, oh, okay, well, I don't want this to end. What else can we do? And there's that tendency of excitement and connection and magnetism. But if you meet someone and it doesn't feel right, it's like, I'm not sure that this doesn't feel right, and move on. Let them go. Don't waste their time. Don't waste your time. Because if it's not a match, and I'm not saying like don't give it a chance, but if it's obviously a no, then just let that one go and keep going. So I think just the word dating has so much attached to it. Like, oh, if
God, everything has so much attached to it.
We go
at
out
this
on
point.
a date, then this is what it means, and this is what's expected.
Yeah.
Like, just let that go and meet in person sooner, talk on the phone sooner. This whole text relationship thing creates all this delusion before you even meet. So do that first and actually connect, see if it makes sense. And if it doesn't, let it go and move on.
You know what'll make all that even better? If you understand your patterns, if you know who you really are, if you understand what's going on inside your freaking coconut, you'll have a really good idea of what it is the other person is seeing. And you actually get to show up in your fullness. So if you're on a date and you've been dealing with and processing your own stuff and you're embodied, and I think self-aware is a great term.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what makes you tick. You know what your boundaries are, what your yes and your no are. You exude one heck of a signal.
Yeah.
And when the person sitting across the table from you or next to you in a coffee shop or whatever, they're going to know. They're going to sense that, even if it's subconscious. They're like,
something's going on there.
There's something solid in this human being. I feel even more likely to want to do more with this person. If everything you're doing is a technique, or you're trying to hide stuff, or you're in a real insecure place, I've been there. They don't like insecurity.
Well, it's kind of like insecurity is more obvious than you know.
Yeah.
And if you think about people in your life, like someone that walks into the room and you just automatically look over and you're like, oh, they're here. And you feel there's this grounded presence. There's this easy to be around person. Like you just want to go hang out with them. That's the kind of person that is attractive and magnetic. And it doesn't matter what they look like. When I'm saying attractive, this isn't like your physical, like you have to look a certain way or be a certain height or weight or whatever. An attractive person has an embodied attractive presence that pulls things towards them that match. So
if you've ever heard people tell you confidence can overcome all sorts of other issues, it's true.
It is true.
And don't get focused just on confidence, because then you're like, well, how do I get more confident? That's just like, well, how do I bench 300 pounds tomorrow? You can't. There's a process to it. Confidence comes from understanding where you're good in your life. It creates it when you're competent at something, when you know you're good at something. If there's areas in your life, if somebody were to say, I'm going to challenge you on that, and you're like, go ahead and try, that's confidence.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody asks you a question or challenges you, and then all of a sudden you're very easily stoppable, or like, I don't know, that's not confident. So you can't just, I'm going to be more confident and then fool them. Like you can't fake confidence.
I think that it's also really embodying the things you're good at that you may not have acknowledged enough, because we all have things that we're naturally good at. And we don't think it's a big deal because we're good at it. And it's just something that's part of who we are. So we assume that everybody has that.
Yes.
But everybody has that in their own way. So while I may be good at organizing, and I love organizing,
Great.
A lot of people really don't like organizing, and they look at me when I'm doing it like, why is that? I'm like, and I'm geeking out because it's fun for me and it's easy for me and I love it. But if you're not good at it, you would look at that as like, wow, that's a superpower for you. You're really good at that. Like, yeah, well, what are you good at? I actually had a meeting with my choir that I'm part of, and I'm part of the marketing committee for my choir. And there's 4 of us sitting there. And instead of saying, well, I've been doing it, so I'm in charge and you're going to do this. And I didn't want to dictate anything to these people. I wanted to see, like, what do you love doing? What are you good at? How do we do this together? How do we collaborate? Because if we all bring the parts we're good at, I've got someone over here who's doing video and photography, then that's taken care of. And this person wants to do analytics, and that's taken care of. And I want to do, whatever. So it worked out that all of us put the right thing on the table, and it was like perfect. So we are all doing what we love, and we can create something together. And it's the same thing in relationships.
Yes.
If I'm good at organizing and you're not, then it works. So you don't necessarily want to find someone. When we say a match, you're not finding a copy of yourself.
No,
you're finding
a
complement to yourself. So magnets attract each other because they're different polarities. They're actually opposite, and opposites attract. So when you're in a relationship, you want to have alignment on things and about the way you want to live and the way you want to show up. But overall, you need to almost have puzzle pieces fitting together more so than duplicates of a thing.
Yeah, there's so many examples as I look back in my past at men that I thought were like, they just look like trolls, and they always had some hottie attached to them, or, especially high school, or, between like 18 to 30, I'd see some of these guys that would just be deemed the asshole or whatever else. But the thing that every woman that I've ever talked to that found these people attractive, didn't mean that they really liked them, but they were just attracted to them, was they have so much confidence and so much of a sense of self that it's so easy to be around them, because there's nothing in them that feels like they're out of control. Doesn't mean that they're doing it well, but on the positive side, what I was saying, like, if you have confidence, it covers over all this stuff. I've seen very unattractive people physically be very happy and have quite a social group and even have lots of love and relationship in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And the distinction is they embody who they are. You couldn't like fit a stick of gum in their personality anywhere. There's no room. They've got it covered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always about looking around your life. If you've heard the philosophy of you become the 5 people you spend the most time with, look at what you're doing in your life and who you're spending time with, and then notice, where are you at? And we were just talking today about, we can wait for people to reach out to us, or we could reach out to people. If we want to go out and do stuff, who do we want to hang out with? And we get to choose that, and we get to make those invitations and choose events to show up at, and what social circles do we want to play in, and that's all up to us. But if we just sit there and wait, it's like the high school dance, and like sitting on the sideline and waiting for someone to ask you, or initiating. And I think initiating is something that is another confidence thing. If you know what you want, you know who you are and what you want, you can initiate the way you spend your time more easily and more authentically.
Whatever your pattern is, and you're ready to change that pattern, you have to have the courage to take the time to understand and see the pattern, and understand that there's a story behind that pattern that's trying to protect you somewhere. And it's got some really weird story. The reason why you have it is because it's got this elaborate scheme to keep you in a certain place. And it's very subtle. It's very pernicious. It can be really loud. It can be very quiet. I was just thinking about that as you said, we need to reach out more. And I thought about that. There's a couple who we owe a night of karaoke to.
Yeah.
But it's very easy for us to not reach out. And then that fits our pattern. Right. Both of us share it. It's not like collectively. We both have a similar frequency in this pattern where we don't reach out. And then we wonder, why doesn't anyone like us? And we have a story about why people aren't inviting us to things.
Why are we getting invited?
Yeah.
We don't show up.
Yeah. So that was our pattern, that we're like, we need to break this.
Yeah.
Nobody owes us a night of karaoke, but when they invite us and we keep saying no,
yeah,
it's like, well, I think we should show them that we like them. And just as one example out of 1,000 you could pick.
I do feel like it's also, please keep inviting us. We have a lot going on, but we definitely like the invitation. So even expressing that yes, please do keep us in the loop. Let us know when things are going on. But it's definitely on us to pop up and look around and see what's up and reach out and do that part for ourselves as well.
Again, I think the biggest point of this entire live is you have to be the person that exists in a way that the things you want are natural for. If your nervous system doesn't know how to be in a relationship that isn't full of drama or fighting, then you need to fix that somehow. There's lots of sources. There's lots of places you can learn to do that. We can help you. We're great coaches. But there are so many places in this world where if you want to be there, you have to fit. The universe is a really great sort of, what do you call it? A
balancing act.
Yeah.
Self-regulating.
Self-regulating. Yeah. I used to work in an environment full of hackers, and it was like a big co-working space, and people would show up who were very maybe not as a negative. They're just like accountant types. They're very left brain, and they show up in this hacker ethos where like the F word is a comma in half these people's vocabulary. They just didn't fit. And those people are like, I don't belong here, and off they go. That's like your whole life.
Yeah, it's also that self-awareness when you stop looking at other people and blaming them for your life and start understanding that you may not have taken ownership until now, but when you start asking what else is there, what is up to me, how can I choose, what can I do, and you start asking those questions for yourself, the whole landscape just will change, because you ask that question, the answers will start popping up and people will show up.
Yeah.
When the student appears, the teacher appears, and it's real. When you start asking questions, the answers will show up in ways you do not expect.
So I'll take a moment to say, and I don't like to dwell on the negative, but if your story has some really difficult, dark stuff in the past, if there is pain and abuse or anything of the sort, we're not saying like that's your fault. Okay. We're not telling you anyone deserves these things, but
No.
we are saying is
that's your experience.
It's your experience. And we're really sorry if you're in a place of pain and frustration, or it doesn't feel like the future is what you want it to be in any way, but you can change that, because honestly, when you look at yourself in the mirror, that's the only person who can do anything about that reflection.
Mm-hmm.
You and who you are and what you want to be, how you want to feel, all of that is really up to you at this point. No matter what the reasons for your current state of being are, you have to start somewhere. And today we're saying take full and complete responsibility for yourself, because no matter what's been done to you or what not been done to you, you can make a choice about what you're going to do about that moving forward, because that's all that you can do anything about. And I'm speaking from experience.
You can't do it all at once.
No.
So when he says take full and complete responsibility for yourself, that is a huge, huge ask.
That's a huge ask.
And that's okay to say I'm ready to start taking full and complete responsibility for myself.
Yes.
So start with one thing. So start with how you take care of yourself. Start with how you eat, how you exercise, how you sleep. Just your environment. Just pick one thing and take ownership of whether you're doing it well or not. And if you're doing it well, then you could say, cool, I am good there. What's next? And just do one thing at a time. I think the original beginning of this conversation was, oh, I want to, lose 50 pounds in 3 days. I'm going to click on this link, and then I'm going to buy these pills, and then I'm going to look in the mirror and go, why isn't it gone? Well, that person just got your money, so you fell for it. But the overarching theme is nothing happens overnight. If you have, 40 years of experience in your life and patterns, it's going to take more than 4 days to change those patterns. So be gentle with yourself. A lot of people will click on these quick fixes, and by the time they get through doing 4 years of quick fixes, they could have actually done a pattern changing 4 years of evolution and complete transformation, but they've tried to change things quickly and they haven't gotten anywhere.
Here's a great example of how a story can play out in your life. If you are one of those people, I hear dieting is a great
dieting is probably the best one.
I don't like the way I look. I want to look that way. So I'm going to do this thing to look that way. And then you do that. And then you have success. You move towards it. But short term. And then it doesn't work. And then what happens? It's like the same for everybody. You look in the mirror and you're like, that didn't work. Oh, God, I can't control myself. I can't control my urges. You gain all that weight back, maybe a little more. And then you go through that, personal hell space. And then when that's over and you're quiet and you're like, you know what I want? I want to look that way. And I'm going to do this thing so I can look that way. And then you do that and you have some success. Like how many more, stories of that do we need? What's going on inside is a story of pain. And the story will let you have that experience just so it can reinforce, see, you need to stop that because it's not safe. If you have a terrible self-image or if you don't feel like you're worthy or you don't matter, or maybe, like let's go with a cliche. Someone in your childhood said you're ugly.
You ugly.
So somewhere in that subconscious matrix is this little story going, you're ugly. So when you start gaining success at this diet, that little voice goes, you forgot you're ugly. Now stop it. And then you go back to that whole thing. And it just, those are the patterns we're talking about, because you've got one. I've got so many. I'm dealing with one yesterday.
We all have patterns. That's what we are. We're creatures of habit. And we also like to say humans do not like to change, but we do like to win.
Yes.
And so when you can make one little win and start with that and make one little change and make it consistent, then that span of 4 years where you're doing that, taking all the pills and doing all these things and not getting anywhere, if you're actually making small, consistent changes, that will snowball into massive transformation. And until you actually try this, you won't believe it's possible. But that's what happens over time. And that's just how it works. And I don't think I've ever seen an example of that not working.
So our invitation challenge is find somewhere where you can write it down. Like, I think writing it is actually really important, subconscious, somatic experience wise. Take some time and just ask, where are any of these patterns in my life? Mm-hmm. Where is it? Where is something that I've done so many times that maybe I can't even see it? I was just telling you today, there's some things in my life that I want to overcome, and they'll literally be sitting on my knee waving at me, and I can't see them because they've been in my life so long. But when you tell your nervous system, okay, it's time to look for this stuff, write down some of the patterns, even if they're like just almost dumb. Because then the idea is you get to track down the story behind why that pattern is there. That's those little everyday steps. I'm not going to try to lose 30 pounds by, and have a summer bod. I'm just going to drink more water, and I'm going to try this little thing and make an adjustment in who you are. Then those stories will start to go, that's because someone told you you're ugly. And then you can transform that, and you can save the rest of your life of the pattern.
That was cute.
Thanks.
I like that. Yeah. Patterns and stories are something we talk about a lot. And the reason we're doing this is just because of what we've gone through together, our own journeys of our own self-ownership and looking in the mirror and making our own changes got us to a place where when we met, it was evident that we would be able to do this together and we would be willing to hear from each other. I can see this right here that, he doesn't want to know about it, but I'm like, do you want me to tell you what I'm seeing that you can't see?
Yeah.
And when there's a willingness on both of us to be able to do that, then we can do this together. But if you're in a stubborn, resistant space where you don't want to hear about it, you're not ready to hear it, or you need to start doing it with yourself first so you can get to the space of being open to hearing it from somebody else. It's a vulnerable thing to ask someone, like, what do you see? What am I doing? Like, what is this thing I can't see? And I have friends that do this for me that I'm like, I feel like an idiot, but I'm stuck in this thing. I can't see it. And they're like, whoa, it's this thing. And oh, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I heard an analogy that's really great. If you're inside the jar, you can't read the front of the label, and you're just floating in the goo of whatever's in the jar.
You're like in a pickle jar.
You're in the pickle
you're
juice.
You're going to remain a pickle.
and sour pickle juice is just the world that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
So if somebody tells you, well, can't you read that? You're like,
you can't see what's going on. So this is why we need each other. This is why we need classes and coaches and friends and relationships and family and things to drive us crazy and trigger us, and cats to give us nice little kneading massages.
I'm kneading her.
Yeah. This is why we need each other. This is why we evolve into a place of what's true for us right now, and get past what happened to me in the past and into what am I feeling now? What's real now? What do I need to adjust or let go of so I can feel better and have more fun? Have more fun. What?
Well, what do you say?
About what?
I think we just did a really good live.
Oh, we did a good live.
Yeah.
Good job, us.
Remember now, if you like these kinds of conversations and you like us, because how could you not? I mean, seriously, look
We're
at us.
adorable.
We again invite you, check out the link below to our school, check out and subscribe to our channel, and please participate with us because we learn so much from interacting with people. We talk about what we know, and then we learn what we don't, and we like to share it.
We talk about what we've experienced and we still don't know too. And that's even more fun. So we're going to continue doing lives. If you do see any of our content and you want to be part of our lives, we do Q&A formats and whatever. We're open to your input. Drop us a comment or a message and let us know what is a good time for a live for you.
Yep.
It is the Friday to 11 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Yeah, Arizona time for
Arizona
us.
time
If
is
you-
what we're doing Tuesday, Friday to start, but let us know what works for you.
If you have questions, if there's anything we can help, just drop us a line in the comments and we'll see what we can do.
See you next time.
Take care.
Ta-da.